Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Cottle, and I am starting a new podcast where I interview artists, musicians, and authors. And today's guest is Miss Cheryl Long, and talking about three of her books. So let's just jump right on into it. And first, let's meet her. Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, Dr. Melissa.
How are you, sweetie?
I'm great.
Now, tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got into the business of authoring.
Well, I am the oldest of four children, and I have grown up in the city of Philadelphia. I now live in Delaware. I come from a really huge family. When I was in middle school, I had a fifth grade teacher that really pushed me into writing. And I used to write stories all the time. They were really, really elaborate. And he always told me, hey, I think you're going to be a writer one day. And that kind of like really sparked my interest into writing because I always wrote stories about like fairy tales. Like all of my stories were just always over the top, but very enjoyable and made sense, he said. So that's how I pretty much got started with writing.
What was your very first book that you authored?
My very first book is called Jaden, a sickle cell story. Jaden is my godson, and he has sickle cell anemia. And I have a heart for children who have life-threatening diseases. I love the way that they push through the disease and still, try to be as normal as possible. So I wrote a book about him, and it's a picture book for kids. That was my first book I did. That was my very first book. And, it's still selling. And it's in Christiana Children's Hospital and Children's Hospital in Philadelphia as well.
That's impressive. Now, you've jumped over from writing something that's very personal, and actually that illness is very difficult to handle. So I'm glad you were able to shed some light on it and maybe bring a smile to some, kids' faces. So God bless you for that. Now, let's get into your new series. And you have three of those books right now, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about the first book in that series. And if you have it near you, hold it up for us so we can see it.
Sure. It's called As the Flowers Bloom.
All right. And what's it about?
So, As the Flowers Bloom is about a young girl whose parents, mostly her father, traffics her. And, it starts off when she's at the age 6 and he's letting men fondle her. And she's going through life trying to deal with the fact that her father is selling her pretty much. This girl loves to dance, and that's how she kind of makes it through.
That is such a heavy topic, especially in this day and age with the hashtag Me Too movements and, things about, incest, sexual abuse, sexual trafficking, etc. How do you take such a difficult, gut-wrenching topic and turn it into a novel?
Well, a friend of mine, when I was 15, actually went through something similar. In her home, her mother had a boyfriend and he was molesting her. And then they started allowing other people to also touch her and have sex with her. Nobody believed her. And, after a while, she ran away from home and got into all kinds of things, drugs and, more of the same. And I didn't see her for a long time. About 5 years ago, I ran back into her and she had just came out of recovery home, getting herself together, 5 children, all of them with different fathers. She had really been through it. But, as I, reconnected with her and, we start talking, it just really, really stuck with me that, I was a little more fortunate than she. But this story needs to be told. This story really needs to, everybody needs to be aware of it because it's not only happening overseas. It's not only happening in movies. It's happening right here to people that we know every single day. So, after talking with her several different times, one night I went to sleep and I dreamt about it. When I woke up the next day, I just began to write about it. And before I knew it, I had an outline. I had all the scene, like the name, everything. It just poured out of me like nobody's business. And I just said, I just couldn't stop writing.
Is there a place that is mentioned in your book where people that if they're suffering of this or know somebody where they can go and get help?
No, because the book, I didn't make it like this is somebody's real life story. This was just a story that I'm telling, but I have a blog that I do also, and I have lots and lots and lots of resources on there for abuse.
Tell us how you find. Yeah, tell us the URL for your blog, so anybody out there that might be listening to this can go to it.
Yes, my blog is called is www.daredaughterslovemom at wordpress.com. And I dedicated that to my daughters. And on there, I share a lot of tips, a lot of resources for various different things, dealing with depression, dealing with domestic violence, sexual violence, down to, how to buy a house, So these are just tips that, I share with mothers and daughters. So yeah, go check out my blog.
That is actually, I will check that out. Now, the other two books, is it a continuation or is it a different character?
So it is the same character. The character name is Cherish. This book 1, she is 6 years old, and her mother go through a lot of domestic violence, and she's going through the sexual abuse, but dancing along the way. She doesn't go to school. They homeschool her. She doesn't have any friends, because she's not even allowed to go outside. And she does befriend a little boy that lives in her building. But the father finds out and of course has a fit. And in book 1, she actually runs away from home because she thinks her father kills her mother.
Wow. So book 2, I believe, is called Full Blossom. Is that correct?
Book 2
is
called Bursting of the Flower.
Bursting of the Flower. And how old is Cherish in that book?
Cherish in this book is 12.
So we've gone from 6 years old to 12.
Yep.
And then things happen. We won't get spoiler alerts.
Yeah.
But then the third book, how old is the main character?
21.
21.
Yeah.
Wow. So we get to grow with this young lady.
Yes. Yes. And she goes through so many different changes, but it's good because it shows you her evolution, and that's everybody's, evolution. So.
Yeah. Now, is there a fourth part to this series?
No. At the end of.
Don't tell us the ending.
I'm not going to say the end.
No spoilers.
She gets resolution.
Well, that's fair enough. That's a good statement to hear, that there is resolution to this.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
Wow, I have a murder mystery that I wrote, and that is out. It's called Sleepless Nights. This book is dedicated to
Hold it up just a little higher.
Yeah, Sleepless.
Yeah.
Ethos Journey. So this book is dedicated to my daughter. I have 4 children, and 3 of them are girls, and I have a 14-year-old, and she absolutely loves Korean and South Korean language, food, and everything else. So we would always talk about if she ever went on a trip there. So I said, well, why don't I write a book about you traveling? But it just can't just be a travel book. How about if I incorporate it to her friends, and then I just turned it into a murder mystery.
That's awesome. And when does that book come out? Because I saw that across the top of it, that's a proof copy. So it's not out yet.
It is out.
Oh, well.
That book is out as well. I debuted that book maybe 2 months ago now.
All right, we're going to have to get that on my website and my blog, because I was not aware of that.
Yeah, that book is out as well. I also have several, actually 3, I think, that is on Amazon right now. A few self-help books, because I like to share what I learned along my journey with others. And one is called How to Deal with the Silent Treatment, and one is called Love Yourself, and then the other one is called Facing the Fear of Being Alone.
Now, anyone that's wanting to find out not only about the series that we're talking about, but your self-help books, that is on your author website. Is that correct?
That's on my author website. And yes. And
And
then
where do we find that?
that is www.cheryltlong.wordpress.com.
Woo, okay. You have quite an interesting background and quite an interesting group of books. Why should readers want to read, let's say, As the Flower Blooms and that particular series?
Well, I mean, I know it is a touchy and sticky topic, but again, it's a heartwarming story. It really puts you in the mindset of these things do happen, but you can also see the strength in the character, how she gets through it. There are people that come along that help her, the battles that she go through every single day, just trying to be normal and fit in. You just really see her strength. You see her evolution. She does make it through, but you also, I mean, people can identify, even though if you've never had any domestic violence or sexual abuse, you can still identify with some of the things that she went through. Like there's a part in book 2 when she gets help from a homeless shelter. A lady takes her in and she starts going to school. Well, she had never gone to school before. I mean, people who have never gone to school, has been homeschooled, can identify with that. You can identify with troubles, not feeling like you fit in, because she didn't feel like she fit in because of all of the things that had happened to her up until that point. So she had a spill with drugs. I mean, there's a lot in here that people can identify with, and then we get to see her triumph through it. So, that's, yeah.
Who's your target who is your target audience for this, age group wise?
I'm looking at 12 years. My daughter, that's
Okay.
14, took it to school, and her girlfriends read my book in one day, and they had discussions about it. I mean, it was just the race, like, oh my gosh, I got to get the second book. Oh my gosh, I got to get her friends, So yeah. I'm looking at 12, because it does happen on up to 99, I mean, I do know that people don't like to hear this, but it's truth.
It is truth. I understand that. I faced, when I wrote my novel, The Keystroke Killer, Transcendence, it's about a serial killer. So you can just imagine, but it's not just about a serial killer. There's a ring of sex trafficking. And people found it very difficult. And the hashtag Me Too movement came on to me like, are you just making money out of this and publicizing it? And I said, no, let me tell you something. This is a topic we have to talk about. This is something we need to discuss. And not only do we need to talk about it and discuss it, if my book can bring the horrendous nature of sex trafficking and, murder, where somebody might look over and see a girl and say, oh, you know what, she might be in problem. And then they take action because I mentioned it in my book. How? Exactly. You know what? No, I'm good with that, because this stuff does happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's writers like yourself that will bring this topic to light. So maybe we can start jumping in and doing something about it. So I commend you for that. Thank you, Cheryl, for that.
Thank you. Yes.
Now, we're about to wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to tell my listeners and my followers on my blog?
Well, I have a Facebook page, author page, that I post to pretty much 2 posts a day. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram as well. I have a YouTube channel that I will be starting, and it is called As the Flowers Bloom / Dear Daughters Love Mom, because I'm going to do a 2-part fold, so look out for that as well. I do have 4 other children's books that's coming out. I have one on cerebral palsy and one on autism that's coming out. I have one on leukemia that's coming out. I also do children's books. Now, my daughter, Robyn, that's 14 years old, had a cat. We called him Calico, and she absolutely loved the cat. And when she was younger, she always used to act like she was going on adventures with him. I said, what a great topic for a book. And I have those coming out in the fall.
Well, when you get those out, I'd like to have you back on here again, and we can discuss those more detail, and also catch up on just what's going on with this particular series. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it catches on and getting it out there for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So thank you for joining me today. And there now you have it. It's why we go, here we go, because you never know what we're going to discuss. Stay tuned for the next interview coming up. I'm Dr. Mel. Bye-bye, Cheryl.
Bye, Dr. Mel.